You scroll through hundreds of job descriptions, but they all sound the same. You spend so much time on every application, but it doesn't seem to matter. You send off application after application, but never hear back. You thought the interview went so well, but it's a no. You jump through all the hoops. The news keeps saying how there are all these employers that are struggling to find people to hire. So why does finding a great job have to be so hard? It doesn't seem very logical or fair. It's not. The system is broken. It's not your fault. The process most people go through to get awful. But here's the good news. The system isn't very smart. In fact, it's downright dumb. It can be beaten. How? Most prospective employers and employees today are using the same old tired strategies that have been around forever. It's like professional camouflage. Everybody just blends into the crowd. But you don't have to be that way anymore. You can get traction. You can stand out from the crowd to unleash your God-given potential, to help a world in need, to do work that matters, to earn what you and your family deserve. You can do this. You're meant to do this. There are bright things on the horizon for you. This is the way. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the workshop. Get hired fast without settling, getting ignored, or losing hope. My name is Eric Woodard. I'm a high-performance career and leadership coach based out of Washington, D.C., and if you're here live joining us on this Tuesday, just want to acknowledge you for spending your valuable time to be here. And if you're watching the replay, you're not quite as cool as the people who were here live, and you're also pretty cool. So look, folks, I want to make sure that people can hear me. So if you would, hey there, Doug and Augustine and Vyacheslav and Crystal, if you would put in the chat where you're from and how long you've been on the job search, because we're going to get going right now, right? Because being on a job search a lot of times can feel just like pounding sand, right? Sometimes it can feel like trying to time a glacier. Sometimes being on a job search can feel like wandering through a desert. Harvey in Atlanta and Hassie in Chicago and Michael in Seattle and Natasha in LA. Sometimes Vyacheslav, I'm going to mispronounce your name, right? In Ohio, and Jonathan in Chicago and Doug in Midway and Sheila from Texas. It can feel like going into the arena gym in Philly and Esther in Raleigh and Augustine Columbus. Sometimes it can feel like looking into an abyss, Marianne in Chicago. Sometimes Jude in Atlanta. It's not very fun. So look, who is this for? If you're unsure about the direction you want your career to go, if you're struggling to find ways to describe what you do, Jamie in Atlanta, if you're uncertain if your resume is any good, Jamila in Atlanta, a lot of people from Atlanta today. If you've been wrestling with how to follow up after you apply, if you're tired of applying and hearing nothing back, another T. Ellis from Atlanta also, and Renaku from Boston and Crystal from Mass, right? If you've been doing interviews that seem to go well and then you don't hear anything, of Akash in Charlotte, and if you're trapped in a job, especially if you don't like and you're not sure how you can escape, this workshop's for you. And especially if you're losing hope. On the other hand, if you're somebody who's just kind of casual about your career, not willing to do a lot of work, I know that's not you, Robert, another one from Atlanta. If you're reluctant to take responsibility for the results you've been getting, if you're just interested in finding a job to make money, if you're stuck in your ways and sort of closed-minded, if you know a lot of stuff, if you're unwilling to be authentic, this may not be a great workshop for you, because what you're going to learn today is how to get hired fast without settling and getting ignored or losing hope. I'm going to offer you 4 strategies and 9 tactics that are going to change your job search. Probably stuff that you haven't heard before, could contradict stuff you've heard before, so that you can do work that matters and pays what you and your family deserve. So our agenda for today, I'm just briefly going to tell you who I am, where I'm coming from, and why maybe possibly what I'm offering could serve you. I'm going to offer you 4 strategies, 9 tactics. I've got an invitation for you, right? Some of you I know have joined this workshop because you already know about our program and you really want to sign up, and this is the way to do that. And if that's not you, that's okay too, because you're going to get a lot out of this workshop. But if you already know you want to sign up for a call with us, that's the link to book a call. And we're going to, Ann's here helping us. Thanks, Ann. She's going to drop in the chat. So if you already have heard about our program, maybe you know somebody that's gotten hired fast because they've gone through this program. That's the link to book a call. Yeah, I see you there, TLS. Yeah. The federal stuff's crazy right now, right? And then we're gonna take some Q&A. So here we go. So who is this guy and why does he think he can help me find a job? Well, I don't know if I can help you find a job or not. I've helped a lot of people from all different levels, all different places, all different industries. Can I help you? I don't know. Let's find out, right? So just to tell you a quick background, I grew up in Asia, came to the States when I was 17, wound up transferring college 7 times. Hey there, Bernard, right? Wound up transferring college 7 times, wound up as a scuba instructor on the island of Guam. And that was pretty cool. I was swimming around with the fish, spent about 10,000 hours underwater, and that was pretty cool. But my brain got a little waterlogged, and I was like, I was a young man. I was like, I got to do something more constructive. So I thought, what would be the most prestigious job I could have? And I thought, well, that must be something like the White House. So I took out a piece of paper and hand wrote the world's worst cover letter. And it was a stinker, right? It was, I said, "Dear Mr. President, you should hire me." And I put that in the mail to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and mailed it. And I thought, well, that was a good waste of a Wednesday afternoon. I'm never going to hear back from those guys. But about a month later, I was going past the Guam post office and the guy came out and he's like, "Eric, you got this envelope. It's on White House stationery." I was like, well, that's cool. I opened it up and it was an internship application. Now, folks, I didn't know what the hell an internship was, but I was really good at filling out applications because I transferred college so many times. So I sent that in, figured I'm never hearing back about that, but at least I had the cool envelope, right? Which I thought that was pretty cool. And I actually didn't hear back, but they got me thinking. I applied to some grad schools and I wound up getting into GW here in DC, and I landed with like this big bushy haircut, was like dumpster diving for furniture, and bought a pair of running shoes and was out running past the White House one day. And I was like, those White House bastards, they never even bothered to let me know about that internship thing. What's up with that? So I found a payphone. I put in a quarter and I said, "Hey, you bastards, what about that internship thing?" I'm like, "Is this Eric from Guam?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm in DC now." They're like, "Man, we've been trying to get in touch with you. You're supposed to start in the First Lady's office on Monday." So I was like, well, that's interesting. So I went and got a haircut, bought a suit, and I showed up. Now, look, folks, I know there's a lot of political craziness in our country right now, so I don't know if your politics match mine. And if they don't, please forgive me. But this was back during the Clinton administration. I went to work for Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was a good boss. And I wound up getting hired on her staff for the entire second term of the Clinton administration, wound up following her afterwards to the U.S. Senate, followed her after that to the U.S. State Department, where I did UNESCO stuff, and then I eventually left Hillary Land, and I became director of fellowships and internships at the Smithsonian Institution. And all through this time, working with people at all different levels in their career, I saw the same movie over and over again where people were trying to figure out job stuff and couldn't do it. So now I give a lot of talks. I do a lot of coaching. I've written a ton of books. I have an absurd number of degrees and pieces of paper and certifications. I've got glowing reviews, and you don't care about any of that. Because what you care about is, can I help you? I don't know. Probably, maybe. Let's find out. Hey, Vic, that's right. We have a course, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. All right. So let's talk about you. Let's see how we can help you. So here's 4 strategies that you can use to elevate your job search. Here we go. So tell me, folks, what is a good resume about? If you would put it in the chat, please. What's a good resume about? And I tend to give away things on these calls to people who get the right answer. So let's see and there's a little bit of a delay between when I say stuff and when you hear stuff. So tell me, what's a good resume about? So Jay says your brand, right? Vic says the ATS. Okay. Ashley says accomplishments. I have not seen the right answer yet. How you can help others succeed. Gerald, I actually like that answer. I like that. We're going to give Gerald, we've got a free LinkedIn course. It's called How to Make Your LinkedIn Profile Awesome. We're going to give that to you, Gerald. We're going to send that to you. So Vikash says accomplishment. Jeff, I like yours too. Jeff Watt Katza. Let's send him a LinkedIn course. So Harvey, communicate your technical skills. Ashley says it's about me. I have not yet seen the right answer, right? Oh, Kathy Miller. I like your answer. Okay, nobody's actually got the right answer yet, because what a lot of you are saying is a good resume is about you. And that's incorrect. Because if you want to be influential with another human being, what's the first thing you talk about? It's not about you, it's about them. A good resume, that's right, Jesse, right? A good resume is about them. A good resume is about the person or organization you're sending it to. And when I say resume, I'm talking about the cover letter, right? I'm talking about the follow-up. I'm talking about the interview. It's all about them. Yeah, I see there, Luciana, right? It's all about them. So strategy number one, and if you get nothing else out of this workshop today, realize that a good resume isn't about you, it's about them. And no wonder we tend to think it's about us, because probably the first resume you put together was out of school, and in school it is about you. It's your cubby, it's your worksheet, it's your desk, it's your transcript, it's your trophy, it's your diploma. In school it's all about us. Yet when we move to the working world, it's not about us. It's the client, the constituent, the customer, right? And so if we can make this mind shift, changes everything in our job search. Employers are focused on themselves. If you want to get hired fast, focus on them too, right? Make the application about them. We're going to talk a lot more about that today. Okay, next question. If I went to a library and I saw a bunch of storybooks on a shelf, Jude and Luciana and Jamila and Augustine and Rithika, if I saw a bunch of storybooks on a shelf, and I picked one of those storybooks off and I looked at the front cover of that storybook, on the front cover, there'd be some words. What do we call those words? What do we call those words that are on the front cover of a book? Thank you, Anne. What are those words called? In English, we call them something. What do we call those words on the front cover of a book? Who's going to be the first one to get it? Yeah, Harvey Dixon. Harvey, we're sending you that LinkedIn course if you're not already on the list, right? It's a title. That's what we call the words on the front cover of a book. Now, isn't it interesting that that's the same term we use to label people in the workplace? Which tells me that your career is a story. And you can tell a lot of different stories to a lot of different people. You know, a lot of people try and use facts, right? They'll run into organizations and say, we are a data-driven organization. We make data-driven decisions. Here's a question for you. Again, this is another one for the, let's see if anybody gets this right? What percent of human decision-making is emotional and what percent is logical, right? So is it like 70-30, 50-50, 40-60? So what percent is emotional and what percent is logical? Put it in the chat. Let's see if anybody gets it right. What percent is emotional and what percent? Oh, so Natasha, 80-20. Jesse says 90, right? Harvey says 80. Nobody's got it right so far. Delroy says 90. Matthew says 80. Not yet. It depends from person to person. That's interesting, Vic, right? Vikash says 70. Okay, 75% emotional. Nobody's got it right yet. So here's the deal, guys. It's 100% emotional. And the reason we know this is when somebody gets their limbic system damaged, they're fine, except they can't make a single decision, and that's the debilitating part. We make decisions very quickly, and it's 100% emotional. Right? When you got on this webinar, you probably decided whether you liked me, whether I knew what I'm talking about within about 3 seconds. And that was a 100% emotional decision. And now you're just getting data to try and rationalize the decision you made, right? So it's like, it's 100% emotional. And the reason we want to use stories in our stuff is stories is how we convey emotion, right? Maya Angelou is often attributed as saying, like, people will remember how you make them feel. Our ability to process like data and logic is like 20 bits a second or something. Like our ability to process emotions is like 40 million bits. I mean, it's orders of magnitude greater, right? So we want to leverage that in our job search, in our application, and realize your title is just a story. You bet that's interesting, Arjan. So for example, notice I'm about to tell a story, by the way. So one time I was on the receiving end of a job application. Is there data to back that up? It's so funny, Delroy. I love that. That's hilarious, right? So like, so like we were taking applications, right? And this one person had applied, and we got to send Delroy the LinkedIn course. That's too hilarious, right? Yeah. So let's send Delroy Willis. We're going to send you a course about how to make your LinkedIn profile awesome. Yeah. Is there data to back that up? Okay, so we were taking applications, and this one person applied. Her name was Maggie, And she, in her essay, she'd written how the summer before she'd been in this terrible car accident and her arm had been severed. I was like, wow, that's quite a story. So we got to bring her in. So I'm thinking about accessibility and we want to make sure Maggie feels welcome. She walks in the first day, 2 arms. Now, was I mad that she had? No, I was so happy she had both her arms. Turned out it had been severed and reattached, and she was doing some physical therapy, right? She was going to be okay. And I remember that story to this day. If I ask some of you, like, do you remember your phone number when you were 5? There'd be some mutants among you. It'd be like, I do, but most of you wouldn't. And if I remember how you felt on your 5th birthday, most of us would remember, right? That part of our brain is super powerful. Okay, next question. Who can tell me who this guy is? What is this guy called? I'll give you a hint. He lives in Idaho. What is this guy's name called? Who knows? Put it in the chat if you would, please. And this guy definitely deals in emotion, right? What's this guy's name called? There you go, Matthew Henry, right? Matthew Henry, you get our course, How to Make Your LinkedIn Profile Awesome, because you got it right. Napoleon Dynamite. You're right, Kitty and Luciani and Ashley. This is Napoleon Dynamite. Now, those of you who haven't seen this movie, I don't want to ruin it for you. And by the way, stop your job search right now and go watch the movie. Come on, folks. We're trying to create a society here. But in this particular movie, Napoleon Dynamite is a high school kid, right? And he sort of beats to his own drum. In this particular scene, he finds himself on stage in front of the entire student body. He's managed to get a cassette tape up to the sound booth. And like, he's got to like do a performance. And the music starts playing and the entire student body is watching. So what does Napoleon do? Napoleon does a performance. He does this crazy dance. I mean, metaphorically, he opens the kimono. And when he's done, he's sort of sweating and panting, and the entire student body's like this. And then they burst into wild applause. And the reason it works is because it's so authentic. Jamie Kern-Lima, the founder of IT Cosmetics, says, everybody's a good dancer if they commit fully. And she's right. And this brings us to strategy number 3, authenticity. People are going to hire you because of who you are, not in spite of it. And if you've been real busy hiding your age, taking your graduation dates off your school, or, taking experience off, or basically hiding anything, it's not helping you. Now, some of you, well, let me ask you a question. Who do humans hire? I'll save you the time. Humans hire humans. And some of you are like, but Eric, what about the ATS? What about the algorithm? Well, how's that been working? Your efforts to trick the algorithm. So first of all, there is no unified matrix Skynet algorithm. Yes, different organizations use different software to process job applications. And at the end of the day, it's a human that hires humans. So the opportunity for you, my friends, be more human. It's never the scandal. It's always the cover up. There's one reason they're going to hire you. And it's not if they like you, it's not your skills, it's not your experience, it's if they trust you. And the way to build trust, as Brene Brown has taught us, is vulnerability. So if you've got a lot of stuff on your resume talking about how you're proficient in Microsoft Office, stop. It's not serving you. And by the way, you don't need me to tell you. Those of you who've been having a hard time in your job search and you're wondering why, try being a little bit more human. Be relatable. So, perfect example. One time I was working with Nina, right? Very accomplished person, and she was having trouble in her job search. So we were working on a resume, and I said, Nina, what do you like to do for fun? She sort of hemmed and hawed. And finally, I got out of Nina that she had a pen collection. I'm like, well, that's super weird. We got to put that on there. And she's like, no, I couldn't do that. So I was like, you're missing out. So finally I hear from Nina a month later. She went into the interview. They talked about pens for 30 minutes because it was on her resume, and she got the job. I can't tell you how powerful this is. Time after time when I work with clients, we make their stuff more human. Suddenly they start getting interviews and offers. Okay, remember, the one reason they're going to hire you is because they trust you. That's right, Will. That's right. It's nice to see you, Will. Dr. Will. Authenticity is key, right? So Luciana says, recruiters even read the cover letters. Well, we're going to talk about cover letters, right? Recruiters take 6 to 8 seconds per resume. That could be, Luciana, my question would be, why are you talking to recruiters? We're going to talk more about that. Okay, next strategy. Abe Lincoln. Give me 6 hours to cut down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And this brings us to strategy number 4, which is systems. Look, folks, there's nothing wrong with you, right? Even if you got mustard on your shirt or a booger on your face, right? There's nothing wrong with you. There's no reason you're not getting more traction in your job search other than the results you're getting are a perfect outcome of your current system. So if you want a different set of results in your job search, the opportunity for you is to create a different system. Now, a lot of you your system is just work really hard. How's that system working for you? Probably not great, right? The opportunity is to iterate. If your system's not working, change it. Iterate until you get it right. There is no such thing as a failed experiment. It's all just data, right? Because what some of you are doing is, and you're doing a hell of a job, by the way, I really acknowledge you, right? This is your system. It's like a little kiddie steering wheel, and it's got like the sticky button and the gear shift, right? And I got to tell you, you're doing a heck of a job. And you're sitting there beating your head into this steering wheel of this thing, wondering why you're not getting more traction. Well, I'll tell you. It's because what you don't know is there's this. Now, you could spend a lot of time sorting out how to get from this to this, or you could get help. And you're going to save a lot of time and money, right? Like, we don't know what your exact settings are, Vic or Esther or Will or Kitty. Like, we don't know your exact settings, but we know you have settings. And what you don't realize is there's like another gear shift and button and the whole control panel that you don't even know about. And if you did, it would make your job search a lot easier, right? So how do you put all of this to work? So I just want to show an example because we recently had somebody who attended this workshop, and her name was Angel, and she was using this as a system, and she started using this as a system, and she got dramatically different results. And this is like, the coaching we offer, right? So we're going to show this video, and if we could show it right now, please. In the time we've got left, I'm curious, especially if there's somebody we haven't heard from yet. They've had a win, a loss. Angel, I got to ask you, what do we know, if anything? What do we know?
I got the
Yay!
job!
Whoa!
The offer. I'm moving in a week. Yeah, it's crazy. And I know when we first met, you're like, oh, like, let's get something by your birthday. And my birthday is in 4 days, so I was able to do it. Yay!
And I just want to acknowledge you. Like, you dove in, you did it, you did the work.
Thank you.
Way to go.
It would not have been possible without like signing up for this program. Truly, I think it made the difference for me.
So good, Angel.
Yeah.
Really happy for you. Super awesome. Congratulations to you. Yeah. So this doesn't have to be that hard, right? So Kitty, I see your question. How would we frame something like depends? Is it a section on a resume and a cover letter? So Kitty, what if you had a section in your resume called More Kitty? And you put evidence there? Hey, thanks, Murthy, right? I appreciate that. What if you had a section called More Kitty and you put evidence there that Kitty's a human? And you put that in Kitty, I don't know you, right? But whatever makes Kitty Kitty, you put it there. And that's what helps make that resume the most Kitty awesome resume that's ever existed. Yeah, you're welcome, Kitty. I appreciate you too. All right. So how do you put this all to work? Let's dive into these tactics. Here we go. Hey, Megan booked a call. Way to go, Megan. We look forward to talking to you. Okay. So 9 tactics. Here we go. Here is, now look, folks, this is tactic number 1. And if you haven't really been paying attention and you've been sort of, yeah, Robert, exactly. Hobbies could be all that stuff. Evidence that you're a human, right? Evidence that's going to help them trust you, relate to you, because that's the reason they're going to hire you, Robert. Okay. So here's a metaphor. Let's say there's a lake, and in the middle of the lake, someone's drowning. Now they're surrounded by other people in little boats. Okay. So somebody's in the middle of the lake drowning, and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a job search, who's the person drowning? Put it in the chat. Right? So there's a lake, and in the middle of the lake, someone's drowning, and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a job search, who's the person drowning? Put it in the chat, please. And again, if you've been like watching this on replay and you have me on 5 times speed, I'm going to talk like this to make it really blah, 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 and I just freaked you out with all the people that were recording this, and they had me on fast speed. Now they don't know what just happened. I always like to do that. It's a little Easter egg I like to put in here. So Kathy Miller, you got it right. A lot of people think it's you, right? A lot of people think it's the job seeker. And Kathy Miller, you're correct. It's not you. It's not the job seeker. It's the employer. And the reason, that's right, Jude. And the reason we know it's the employer is they've told us. They put up a job announcement to say, help, we're drowning. The job seekers are the ones in the boat. And yet many of you, many job seekers behave like they're the ones drowning. And maybe it's because you got bills or family members putting pressure on you. I don't know what it is, right? But you say things like, pick me, I'm the best for you. And the person in the water is like, well, I don't know about that, but that's creepy. Why are you so interested in saving me? I'm going to go over here to this other boat, right? So this brings us to tactic number 1, which is mindset, right? You don't want to go down the road of, I hope they pick me, I'm the best, right? Instead, you want to flip that. You want to come from a place of service. People don't want to be sold. Like those of you who have been out there trying to sell I got to sell myself. Look, folks, we've gone over this historically. That's bad. It's creepy. And buying people's even worse. Right? It's interesting. I worked with I had a client earlier this year as a sales guy, and we got on the call. He's like, I just haven't been able to close the deal. I'm like, well, I can tell you what your issue is. He's like, what? You're trying to close a deal. This isn't about closing people. People don't want to be closed. They want to be served. This isn't about getting sold. Okay. Renaku said, yeah. Well, so kind of, Renaku, right? It's not that you need the company to hire you, because there's lots of jobs out there, Renaku. Tons of jobs. Or Renuka. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name, Renuka. There's lots of jobs out there. There's only one Renuka. There's only one Vic. And Vic, I disagree with you. Both are not drowning. You are not drowning, right? Because you need a job and you don't need that job. There's only one Vic. There's only one Susan. Okay, so mindset. This is really important. If you get nothing else out of this today, it's going to really serve you. Thank you, Renuka. I appreciate that. So some of you have seen the TV show Deadliest Catch, right? It's a reality TV show where they're these Alaskan fishermen and they're trying to catch crabs. And the way they do it is they put these big steel cages on the bottom of the ocean floor. They're called crab pots with a little bit of bait. And sure enough, Bob the crab comes along. He's like, oh, free lunch. And Bob goes in, starts nibbling, right? Then Sarah comes and Cheryl and Charlie, right? They're all joining. They're all having lunch. And eventually the food's gone. And one of the crabs is like, I'm out of here, boys. Tries to crawl out. The other crabs will pull that crab back in. Meanwhile, more and more crabs are joining because crabs like to be with other crabs. And if a crab tries to crawl out, they'll even pull off they'll even do a crab murder. And at the end of the day, what happens is they all get pulled up to become dinner, which brings us to tactic number 2, which is your environment. Some of you are thinking, oh, I'm procrastinating because I'm just lazy, or I had a mean boss before. And if that's happened to you, I'm sorry, that sucks. And all that stuff gets eaten for lunch by your environment, right? Your environment matters so much to whatever you're trying to do, and especially job search. And I mean your physical environment, the people you're hanging out with, the media you're consuming. It's really important. So one of the first things we do when we work with people is let's get your environment dialed in. And if the environment you're in isn't supporting you, let's be real assertive and change it however we have to. And that looks really different for different people. And it's very much more possible than most people realize. Some of you may have heard the idea of reference groups, right? Where the average weight, income, education of the 5 people we hang out with most. Same thing with job searching, right? If you're hanging out with people that are pulling you down, it's not going to help you get a job if your environment's not dialed in, right? Yeah. Rejection is protection. That's interesting, Alice. That's super interesting. What's meant for me is meant for me. What I want also wants me too. Yeah. I love that, Kitty. That's great, right? So reference groups. All right, on to the next tactic. Tactic number 3. Sometimes I'll talk to job seekers and I'll say, how much money do you want to make? And they're like, oh, anywhere from 50 to 200,000. What do you want to do? Something that helps people. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And it's really effing vague, right? You've got to have clarity and vision in your job search. What's the proverb, right? Where there is no vision, the people perish. It's the same thing for job seekers, right? You want to have the map before you go into the forest. There's a great Bruce Lee quote. He says, be careful what you tell yourself. Your body's listening. If I say red right now, all of you are instantly more aware of the color red just because I said it. Our brain will literally see what we tell it to find and be blind to stuff we don't. So if we don't have a clear picture of what we're looking for, of how we can serve the world, how will we ever see it? How will employers ever see it? No way, right? It's super vital. Remember, there's a reason that when race car drivers drive 500 miles in a circle that they don't look at the outer wall, because when they do, that's where the car tends to go. And it's the same thing with your job search. If you're looking at the outer wall or just not looking at anything, you're just going to go around in circles. Okay. All right. Here we got one. Here we got one for the chat. Here we go. If I went to, hey, Chris J, you booked a call. Nice to see you, Chris. We look forward to talking to you. Okay. If I went to the store and I bought this, what would I be buying? Put it in the chat if you would, please. What would I be buying if I went to the store and bought one of these things? What would I be buying? Who's going to get it right? Who's going to get the right answer? Let's see who's going to be first, right? So Natasha, a tool, okay. Gerald says a cordless drill, okay. Kathleen says a tool or a drill, okay. I haven't seen the right answer yet. What would I be buying? So Deloitte says a resource. Ali says a solution. Okay, yeah. You guys, you know how tricky I am, right? Jonathan Drews, we're going to send you that LinkedIn course because Jonathan got what I was after, right? Nobody needs one of these sitting around their garage, right? What they actually need is a hole. Thank you, Jonathan, right? What they actually need is a hole. And actually, Jonathan, we're still going to send the LinkedIn course, but actually you're wrong. Nobody needs a wall full of holes. What they actually need is a place to put the hook. And actually, I don't need a bunch of hooks coming out of my walls to gash my arm open. What I actually want is a place to hang the picture. And now that I think about it, I don't even want that. What I actually want is the feeling that I get when I look at the picture of my beautiful family that's hanging on the hook, that's in the hole that's made by the drill. And this brings us to tactic number 4, which is you want to give employers safety. A lot of people, maybe even people on this call, are spending their time talking about themselves. That's a hot dumpster fire. I mean, you don't need me to tell you how that's going. Sometimes people are talking about them. And sometimes these people even come to me. They say, I saw your workshop 6 months ago and I'm still on the job hunt. I'm like, well, what's the issue? I'm talking about them. Let me see. And what they're talking about is the drill. And what's available instead of talking about the drill is the thing that keeps the employer up at night when they're trying to go to sleep looking at their ceiling. If you can get down to that level of resolution and make that employer feel seen, heard, and understood, if you can give them that safety, game over. Do you see how this is so much more sophisticated than trying to trick ATS systems and hide your age? We're just playing at a different level, folks. That's why my people get hired fast, right? You want to get really clear about what they like, want, and need, okay? What keeps them up at night? How can you make them feel seen, heard, and understood? All right, tactic number 5, paper. Here's a version of one of my resumes, right? And guys, resumes are stupid. The idea that we're going to boil our lives down to a couple pieces of paper, I mean, like, what is that all about, right? That's just kind of a ridiculous notion. And it's the least bad idea we've come up with so far since like Roman times. So we still use them, right? And the opportunity is to make your paper, your resumes, your cover letters, all that kind of stuff. And again, everybody's got an opinion. It's more art than science. You don't want your stuff to look like everybody else, right? You don't want to do best practices. I can see a teal, those of you who are like, well, I use teal. Nothing against the good folks at Teal, but I can see a Teal resume about 19 miles away, right? If you're trying to show them that you're exceptional, show them that you're exceptional. Don't have your stuff look like other people. Look, I have hyperlinks in my resume. Do you? Now, I don't know if they'll ever click, but at least it makes me stand out. That and about 1,000 other things, right? You don't want your stuff to look like other people. It's a communication piece. And the idea is you want to communicate with them in a way they cannot ignore. Part of that's making it about them. And part of it's communicating in a way at a time with the people that really make the difference. All right. Next tactic number 6. If an application is submitted and there is no follow-up, does it even make a sound, Susan and Harvey and Joe? I would humbly suggest that it doesn't, right? And this takes us to follow-up, right? How many of you apply and then follow up? Now, I'm not talking about when you got the interview. I'm saying you apply and you follow up. Now, some of you right now are saying, but Eric, a lot of times when I apply, there's no contact info. Really? You're going to let no contact info get in the way of you creating miracles for this organization? In fact, when you don't follow up, you show them that that's where you're coming from. Conversely, if you do follow up, it shows them everything. And by the way, when you follow up, you're not going to say, just wanted to check in, or I'm really excited about this opportunity because that's all about me. Hey, Jim Brooks, you booked a call. Look forward to seeing you, right? That's all about me, right? And some of you are like, but isn't it pushy to follow up? Let's review. Let's say you're in the boat and somebody's floating face down in the water. And you say, "Sir, are you okay?" And they don't move. You wouldn't be like, I don't want to bug them. No, you'd jump in the water, you'd flip them over, you'd start doing mouth to mouth. And if suddenly they were like, "Lady, I'm just snorkeling," you'd be, "My bad." You'd say, "My bad," but you'd be willing to offend in the name of service. It's the same thing with this. Employers are going to believe what you show them more than what you tell them, right? And you can have that big, by the way, those of you who have that big paragraph at the top of your resume talking all about you, please get rid of that. They're not going to read it, and it's all about you, right? So don't have that. But some of you have that paragraph, and it's like, "I take initiative, and I really blah 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 blah," and then you don't follow up. What are they going to believe, right? So come from a place of service, right? It's not pushy, it's service, right? Great. Hey, Jesse, nice to see you, man. We're gonna, Jesse, we're gonna talk to you soon. Look forward to meeting you, Jesse. Right? So perfect example is like a realtor or a guy named Darren Hardy, right? Used to be a realtor. He's a publisher of Success Magazine, redheaded white guy in a shiny suit. Exactly what you would picture, right? Success Magazine publisher. So he used to be a realtor, and what would happen was when listings came up in the MLS is opening, like their selling realtor, the contract expired, some people would call them sort of midday, say, "Hey, you looking for help selling your house?" Darren would show up, full suit, 5 a.m. with clipboard, knocking on the door. They'd sort of open the door and be like, "Who the hell are you?" He's like, "I'm Darren Hardy. We're going to sell your house." And if they didn't sign up with him then, around mid-morning, he'd send like a big gift basket. Around early afternoon, an associate would show up with like a sold sign and say, "You're going to need this." And Darren said he lost about 1 out of 5 for being too aggressive, and he got the other 4. When we have leadership, it gives people safety. Okay. It gives people safety, right? That's kind of what I'm doing on this workshop here, right? Like one of you asked earlier, is like, "Is your program really that much?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is. And I'm willing to offend in the name of service because I'm more interested in serving you than pleasing you." If you bring that sort of energy to an employer, and meanwhile, all of your competitors are like, "Ooh, I don't want to bother them." Game changer. Game changer. Okay, on to the next tactic. Tactic number 7. Here it is. And this is the one where a lot of my clients get really, "Hey, Jesse, we look forward to seeing you." Like a lot of our clients really get traction. And this is how this works, right? If I asked some of you, if I said, "Okay, how many people do you have in your Google contacts?" Some of you would be like, "Well, I have like 1,000. I'd be like, "That's amazing." And then I would ask, "How many of those people know that you're actively on the job search?" And you might get real quiet and be like, "Well, a good number, maybe half." And I'd be like, "Well, that's interesting. How would they know?" And we'd be like, "Well, I posted it on LinkedIn. I put an open to work banner." And so they know. And so I'd be like, "Well, how long ago was that?" "Well, 6 months ago." So I said, so they would have had to gone to LinkedIn 6 months ago to go into your profile and notice that. And they would have had to remember it all the way till now. Now you get kind of quiet, right? You ever seen the Academy Awards where some movie star gets up there and it wins a big prize and they say, "Well, this is great. I got nobody to thank." No, it doesn't happen like that, right? They're like, "I got to thank this person and this person and this person and this person," right? They're trying to drag them off. Say, when people do great things, we do it together. When we ask people for help, it's not a burden. We honor them because we wouldn't ask for their help unless we thought their help was worth something. There's probably a universe of people out there that would like to help you if only they knew that you were on the market. Asking for help makes you look strong, not weak. And by the way, some of you are doing this. Some of you have like a one-off system. It's like you're doing it with a single fishing pole. And that's okay, but it's like you got to get the right bait on the right fish at the right depth at the right time in the right place. I mean, I suppose that could happen if lightning strikes. So what you want instead is a system. This goes back to that NORAD control room I showed you, right? You want a system that allows you to filter the ocean because we don't know where the fish are going to be. They're probably going to never be where we think they are. And if we filter the ocean, we don't have to worry about it. This is how you get hired fast. Okay. A system is required, no one-offs. All right, guys, final stretch here. Let's talk about interviews. Here is the best interview advice in the world. Are you ready? You may want to write this down because it's really good. Here it is. Here it is. Here we go. Don't answer their questions. Don't answer their questions because really whatever words come out of their mouth face, they're really only asking you one question. And this is the question. Can I trust you? And they'll say things like, "Tell me about a time." And, like, "What's your favorite, animal?" And, like, "Tell us about yourself." And if we had like a little translator, a little box that would go, "Meh, meh, meh, meh. Can I trust you? You know, like, tell me about a time you made a mistake. Meh, meh, meh. Can I trust it?" That's all they're really asking. And so you can't really answer that question and just answer every question, you can trust me, because remember, people believe what you show them more than what you tell them. So the opportunity instead is to do that by making them feel seen, heard, and understood, and telling stories that help build trust. That's how you crush an interview. And for those of you who've gotten to like round 2 and 3 and then gotten the no, there's nothing harder. If that's been your situation, I'm sorry, that sucks. And we can get that handled. Because there's only one reason you don't pass through an interview. Hey, Greg, look forward to seeing you, Greg. Nice to see you. Greg booked a call, right? There's only one reason they're not hiring you, and it's because they don't trust you or they trust somebody else more. And it's nothing personal. So the opportunity is to build that trust, right? Yeah. So Renuka says, but there's a badge, open to work. Whenever we post anything they like or comment, people we know open to work. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Renuka. And the thing is, a lot of people don't live on LinkedIn, especially people who aren't job searching, right? They're just not there. And if they are, it's easy to ignore. So there's other ways to get their attention. Okay. So, all right, guys, final tactic here. We're on to the final stretch. I so acknowledge you. We've got such a great crowd today. So here's what I see a lot of people doing is I'm like, well, are you applying to a lot of jobs? And they say, well, you got to understand, Eric, I'm pretty particular because if I apply and I get the job, then I got to move my family to Connecticut. And I don't even know if I want the job and they probably can't pay me enough. And stop. Okay. Realize that you don't have to worry if you're qualified for a job or you want the job ever. Well, not exactly. Let me explain. In terms of whether you're qualified for a job, they'll have an opinion. Okay. They will have an opinion on that. You don't have to worry about that. Secondly, in terms of like whether you want the job, unless and until you actually get the offer, you won't know. So the opportunity instead is to focus on like, instead of going through job listings thinking, ooh, do I want this? Do I want this? Go through and think, who could I help? What's possible for these people, right? What's possible for this organization? Use that lens and approach the job search from that lens. And then if they say, would you mind pulling me out of the water? We can say, what an interesting idea you just had. Let's talk about how that might be possible. See the difference? Okay. Apply liberally from a place of service. All right, folks. So appreciate you all being here. So write this down if you haven't already. This is the framework. 4 strategies. We want to make it about them. We want to tell stories. We want to be authentic. We want to have systems. 9 tactics, right? Mindset, environment, vision, give them safety, paper, follow-up, networking, interviews, offers. So look, folks, some of you are hearing this stuff and you're like, damn, this is different. And you're like, I'm going to go off and try this on my own. And that's great. And I hope that works. And what I hear a lot of times, like I mentioned before, is people that attended this workshop, and they're like, I did everything you're doing. And they're like, show me. And they're like, no, you're not doing it. Right. So this is sort of like having a personal trainer, right? You can go to the gym and you can work out and you'll get muscles eventually, or you can get a trainer and you're going to get bigger muscles faster. Okay. And what you don't want to do is keep doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. What's the Einstein quote about the definition of insanity? Right. The opportunity is to iterate. And so, the stuff that I'm offering here, as you probably have already figured out, it's not Googleable. Like I didn't look this up out of a book. This is stuff that I've come up with for my own career that I've seen work in real life, because a lot of the conventional logical wisdom out there, and some of what I've offered here today contradicts it. You got to hide your age and use ATS. Yeah, it doesn't work. And people just keep repeating it. Yeah, we don't do that here, right? This stuff isn't stuff you can look up on your own. It's different than the rest. It gets people hired. It's why our clients are so successful, right? So I've got a program called Get Hired Fast. The idea is we get you hired in 3 months or less, and it comes with a guarantee. Like everybody who signs up for this program and stays with the program, they get placed. We don't leave you, even if it takes longer than 3 months. Like we don't leave your side. It's awesome. And it talks about all of these things. Like this is the framework of the program, right? It's helped a lot of people just like you. There's Jessie, right? Jessie was somebody that was in education. She actually got a couple of offers from our program and said no. And then she finally got one. She's in good shape now, right? There's Robert, right? Robert signed up. He was just starting his job search, and he wanted to make sure that his job search didn't become one of those 6 months or year-long job search. So he signed up with us and he got hired in about 2 months, right? There's Wayne. Wayne got a ton of offers with us before he said yes, right? There's John. He was a tech guy, CEO. He was with us right about 3 months. He got hired. There's Amy. She was in communications, right? She went through a couple interviews and I got really close. And finally, she's really happy in her job now. I just heard from her the other day. There's Philip, right? Again, another tech guy. We got him situated. There's Jessica, right? She, yeah, I mean, just like all these clients are awesome. There's Angel, you met earlier. So this is possible for you, my friends, right? And here's the danger is that what a lot of people do is they're like, well, I just want to wait. I just want to think about it. And here's the problem with that, right? If you want to make this much money, this is what you're losing per month. This is what you're losing per week, which means in a lot of cases, if we can get you hired a couple of weeks faster, which we certainly can, right? You're going to come out ahead. Like if, people come to me like, Eric, can you guarantee you'll get me hired in 2 months? I can't. That would be lying. I don't know that. But what I can say is working with a program like this, you're going to get hired faster than you would on your own, right? And there's too much evidence for that. So yeah, full program, right? The idea is, right now this is May 20th. So the idea would be we get you interviews in June, offers in July, right? Maybe August, because we're getting towards the end of May. But first couple of weeks, we get your resume tightened up, right? We get your LinkedIn squared away, cover letters, right? We figure out how to create a system so that when you're reaching out to employers, you're making it about them. We layer on the follow-up. So you're not getting ghosted by recruiters. We can handle that real easy, right? And not only that, you're bringing in your network. And, there's a couple different components to this program. It comes with an online course, group coaching, it's online community. And the main thing you get in this course is different from others is we do a lot of one-on-one coaching, right? You do a couple one-on-one sessions with me and then I pair you up with one of my co-coaches. So you're just not doing this alone, right? Because this is hard enough. And some of you are thinking, oh, I can't afford this. It's not for me. Let me just correct you on that misconception. This is for you, right? This program is not designed for like fancy people. Look at me. I'm in a hoodie. I'm not a fancy person, right? Like this is about service, right? If you're worried about whether you can pay for it, we have all these crazy payment plans. And sometimes people will come to me and they're like, well, Eric, can I pay you after I get the job? Almost, right? Because it's for a couple hundred bucks a month. You can start the program and then you can pay off the balance after, right? Really easy, right? Again, interviews in June, offers in July, and we place 100% of the people that stick with the program. Here's an example of like the hundreds of people we've helped. Really proud of it. Really helped a lot of people. So look, if this is something you're interested in, we're going to drop the link in the chat one more time. Book a call with us. Come talk to us. The only request I have is if you book a call, right? You're going to show up for the call. You're not going to let something else get more important, something else less important get in the way of you talking about your future and getting this handled, right? Other than somebody being sick or worse, you're going to show up for the call. You're at least open to making an investment in yourself to get different results than the results you've been getting, and you're ready to get started, right? If those three things apply to you, like book a call. Let's get this handled. You'll wind up talking to me or one of my team, and you don't have to keep doing this alone. Yeah, because that's just not fun. All right, guys. So let's take some questions here. I'm going to give you the giant version of my head, which is the giant full version. I know we had a bunch of questions. Anne, and I think maybe Jesse's here now. Hi, Jesse. So let's take a look at some of these questions. Do recruiters even read cover letters anymore? Recruiters take 6 to 8 seconds per resume. So look, I don't want to stereotype about people in recruitment, and recruiters are professionally trained ninjas at keeping you separate from the hiring manager, in part because if they didn't, they would have no reason to exist, right? So recruiters, and a lot of times recruiters, like you might be the world's expert in XYZ. The recruiter doesn't know anything about XYZ. They just are following a list of criteria. So I don't know if recruiters read the cover letter or not. And frankly, I don't care because I'm not playing to impress the recruiters. I'm not playing to impress anyway. I'm going to find the hiring manager, right? There's some hiring manager behind the scenes who's actually kind of pissed off at the recruitment people because they're taking so long and they're drowning in work. And we're going to go to that person and we're going to say, hey, you're drowning. We're both ancient Babylonian cabinet makers. We speak language. And so, by the way, that person's going to knock on the back door of recruiting and say, this one, Kitty Clemens, I want to talk to Kitty. And the recruiting people are like, well, we already sent them the automated response. They'll be like, I don't care. Can't tell you how often this happens. By the way, if you're getting those automated responses and you're actually taking them seriously, please stop doing that. Just pretend they went in your spam and go along your merry way, right? You don't have to pay attention to those automated things because, yeah, you just don't, right? My clients ignore them and it's fine. It works fine. Okay, let's see some more questions here. Kitty, how would we frame something like depends in a section on resume? Yeah, so we mentioned this a little before. So you can have a section, more Kitty, right? More Kitty. And that's where you put that your hobbies, the things that make you human, like all that stuff. You know, we had a client last fall on the bottom of her resume. She put 2 truths and a lie. She sent it and she got 2 interviews and 2 offers just from that. And the reason we know that is because they told her, they're like, that's why we took your resume. It's because you put that on there. Had another client put on there, because I have this on mine. I used to run marathons, and he put on his that he run a marathon, and they brought him in because, look, you can say that you know how to take risks and you know how to do hard things and you have discipline, or you just say you ran a marathon. The parents among you, and look, I know moms get the short end of the stick on this sometimes, right? And dads are like the best, right? So apologies on behalf of like society and the patriarchy and all the rest. And those of you who are moms or dads, why isn't that on your resume? Because anybody who's either had one of those or is one of those is instantly going to know what that means. It means you've cleaned up a poopy butt at 3 a.m. You think that builds trust or lessens trust? It builds trust, right? Poopy butts build trust. All right, what else do we have here? And okay, so Susan is, how can I be a bother when they are looking for someone? Yeah, good question, Susan. I don't know how you could be a bother. It's sort of like serving chocolate cake, right? Like, if you were offering chocolate cake to a room full of people and there was somebody sort of sitting on the side, you'd say, want some cake? And they may be like, no, I don't eat chocolate cake. And you'd be like, that's fine. But it wouldn't keep you from offering the cake because there's other people out there that want the cake. So you're not being a bother, right? If they're like offended that you bother them, that's fine. There's other people out there that need your help. So that's what I would say. All right. What's the next question? Do you help with securing freelance work or mostly long-term positions? Both, Kitty, both. Like, because the tactics that one uses to get a short-term contract or a job are kind of the same. So, and sometimes people accidentally get one or the other. They'll apply to a full-time job and they get the contract, or vice versa. That happens a lot. So, yeah. So what other questions do we have here? Sheila, do your coaches help discover specific direction for a job position? Yeah, we sure do, Sheila. As in remove the blurriness. We absolutely do. I was actually just working with a lady who signed up with us last week. We did this exact exercise. It took us about 10 minutes. Because it doesn't mean you have to like get wedded to like a particular thing, but yeah, the clarity thing is really important, because if you don't have that clarity, how will an employer have it? So great question, Sheila. Sheila, if we're not already sending you a LinkedIn course, let's send Sheila Isaac a LinkedIn course. I like that question very much. Good job, Sheila. All right. How do you find the hiring manager? Well, Jeff, would you believe it? I actually have an entire little mini course devoted to this. It's called how to contact anybody. And Jeff, we're going to send it to you, because there are ways to find people in the world today. Lots of different ways. So Jeff, we're going to send you that free course. Jeff Watska, how to find anybody. You're getting that free course. Great question, Jeff. All right. We've got time for 2 more questions. I think it's Bernard. I think found HR and VP Connects on LinkedIn. And yes, they did respond, accept my connection and invite every time. That's great. And if you messaged them, what did you say? You might have said something like, and this is for everybody, hey, I just applied. I'm really interested in your organization. Let me tell you about how I'm awesome. The chances of getting a response to that are slim to none, as opposed to writing them and making them feel seen, heard, and understood. Now, it doesn't always work, but people are so accustomed to other people coming and talking about themselves that anytime anybody comes to them and gives them some acknowledgement, it's like oxygen. And job seekers do this too. Or employers, I should say, do this. All right, last question here. Last question. Hey, and you know what, Morthy? Because you asked, we're gonna send you that LinkedIn course, or not the LinkedIn course, but the free course on how to find anybody's contact info. So Morthy VM, we're gonna send you that course because you asked, right? It's a great habit. Ask for what you want. It's fantastic. Okay, Renuka. Is it a team you have, or will you be providing one-on-one coaching? So Renuka, yeah, you get one-on-one coaching from me. Believe it or not, like if you signed up for our program, you'd actually be working with me. Can you imagine the odd? No, I'm just kidding, right? Yeah. And like I lead the group sessions, and like I wish I had 500 people in my program. I'm not that cool, right? I'm not, yeah, you're welcome, Worthy. I'm not that cool. Like at any given time, we only have about 20 or so. And I know what's going on with all of them because people don't stay very long in our program because they tend to get hired, right? They tend to rotate out. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, look, I really acknowledge you for being here. I acknowledge your time. And by the way, if you're like sitting there, like, like pounding sand and like, oh, how can I get traction on my job search? Like, you can keep doing this on your own if you want, or we could just get this handled, right? And the first step to getting this handled is book a call with us. Again, I know a lot of times people are like, there's no way I could afford that. Well, look, I don't want to put up this, but if you're wanting to make at least 100 grand, you're losing that much or more like every couple of weeks. You just don't know it. So let's get you hired. And so you're not paying that much money every week. Let's talk. And regardless, whether I get to meet you and get to talk to you, or you're really clear that you want to keep doing this on your own, I just acknowledge you for being here. I acknowledge you for, you're so welcome, Sheila and Bernard. Like just acknowledge you for being on this webinar. And if you're wanting to find out more about whether we could help you, like, let's talk. And there are bright things on the horizon for you. Keep your chin up. And don't do this alone unless you really, really want to, because I don't want to hear from you in 6 months and saying, hey, I wish I'd signed up back on May 20th. I don't want that to be you. All right, my friends, have a great day. Really acknowledge you. Keep up the good work and see you soon.